So if you look at the monster character, there's a big shape of shadow. If you just negate the features for a second, just look at his body. There's a big shape of shadow and a big shape of light, just two shapes for that monster. And then if you break that shadow shape down a little bit further, if you squint your eyes, you'll notice it's just one big shape. But if you open your eyes a little bit, you can see that there's reflected light. The bluish top of him is kind of this fuzzy shape of reflected light. And there's some reflected light values in there. But in general, I'm trying to keep it to very simple, sort of a two-shape thing, one light, one shadow. The girl's head is all in shadow. So I really only have reflected light and dark accents to help her form pop. So reflected light under the chin. Remember I talked about the whole Sergeant Lady Agnew thing? Under the chin is reflected light. Of course, it's glowing orange reflected light because it's coming up from the table and the pumpkins. The top of her head there is this bluish reflected light coming from the sky. And then the dark accents, you can find dark accents. The corners of her mouth are dark accents. A bit under her nose, like directly under her nose, is a bit of a dark accent. Her inner sort of ears are dark accents. You can even think of the iris as a dark accent. And you'd be amazed at how few shapes you need to make your creatures and characters come to life. Really, what you have to work on is with those few shapes, really focus on the edges between those shapes. So while I'm at this close-up here, look at the monster's light and shadow. Notice how that edge is so interesting in the sense that it's not repetitive. It's unpredictable. That there are within that overall light versus shadow of the monster, look how there are some hard parts of the edge from light to shadow. There are some soft parts. There are some, parts that are built with like mosaic type tiles. There are some parts that are blended. It's all over the place. And that's done on purpose. That's something I've built up to for the maximum potential read of that. And that's a mindset I have everywhere. If you look at the pumpkins, the edges on the pumpkins, they are like that too. The edges on the girl's head are very soft because reflected light usually has soft edges. So I've done, mostly soft edges on the girl's head. Looking at it upside down just helps, again, evaluate it on a color level. What I'm doing here, I just want to show you some composition. I just want to show you the path that I've made sure is still clear throughout this painting. That S-curve that I planned from the beginning, well, a version of it anyway, is there. And hopefully it's not, so obvious that it's cliche or anything. And you can even continue the path like that through the awning. So that's composition. That's something that we discovered almost 5 hours ago now. This is back at the beginning of the beginning stages of the painting. Before I even started this, I discovered that kind of composition, and you notice I've stuck to it. Even though I've made big changes to this, the foreground being the additional piece that was not in my planning, I'm still using my framework of composition to help guide me through this. And that's something that really has nothing to do with painting technique. If I hadn't talked about that, you might take it for granted that the picture just looks nice, like it looks easy to look at. And when a picture is easy to look at, it's not the technique of the painter, it's composition. You can compose beautiful pictures with the most simplistic of shapes. You don't have to paint a complicated scene like this. Composition is devoid of detail or anything like that. It's just the opposite. Composition works on big shapes, big decisions, and hopefully that little deconstruction, a minute ago, helps you really see how this composition is what is gluing this picture together, and it's happening sort of behind the curtain. No one's really being drawn to it. It's just it's there like a tone through a piece of music or something. So I'm still in that phase where I am just looking for little things, just tweaking the way that pumpkin looks. Rendering, really. I'm in this render phase where it's not exactly creative work. It's kind of like housekeeping work where I'm just asking myself, are these forms clear? Just the things I already talked about. Are the forms clear? Am I getting the most out of the shape? Of course, I am also thinking, does it serve compositionally? Where at this point of the painting, though, I pretty much kind of have to be final on that. You don't really want to backpedal too much in terms of compositional choices. That's where you can get into trouble. If I were at this stage of the painting, where I have a near finished product and I just start discovering my composition doesn't work, that is grounds for a hair ripping out repaint. Sorry. Rip out your hair and repaint, because that is the worst thing that can happen to you, is if your composition doesn't work. So I've made sure, this whole way, and why I planned from the beginning, that this composition would work. If you actually, for those of you who haven't seen my Digital Painting 1 video, it's also on the website. I don't do any planning in that one. I just dive straight in, and I dive in and try and swim, basically, on that one. And you'll see that painting majorly change. This one, I call it a major change, the foreground thing. My Digital Painting 1 video goes through like seismic changes, like earthquake level changes. It goes from horizontal to vertical. It changes from one subject matter to another. It's crazy. It's a huge exploration of the creative process. Whereas this one is as well, but this one is a more meticulous approach, like a client-friendly approach, you might think of this one. Whereas my other one, Digital Painting 1, is off the cuff, pure, concept art, where I'm trying to conceive of something that I don't even know what it is going in. I literally, on Digital Painting 1, did not know what I was going to paint as I went into the painting. So it was a kind of a scary process, especially because I was recording it. But it is really pretty cool to see what that process looks like as well. And you might have fun trying that yourself, just diving into a canvas and just letting your shapes flow free form and then steering them along as you go. Anyway, that's Digital Painting 1. So, I'm zoomed out here at 25%-ish. The zoom out is all important, right? Because when you shrink this painting down to internet-friendly resolution, maybe like 900 pixels tall or 1,000 pixels tall or something like that, 800 pixels tall, you're going to see what you're seeing now. You're going to see a shrunken down version. Of course, it'll be sharper because every pixel, when Photoshop shrinks it down, it will actually recompile the pixels, so you're seeing it one-to-one. Right now, Photoshop has actually eliminated pixels to facilitate us seeing it at this zoomed out resolution. So when we save the final JPEG, it'll look just like this, but it'll look a little sharper. So it is important, though, to zoom out, even at the end, and make sure that all your big shapes are in order. So if you're just, keeping track of what I'm doing here, I'm still using a fairly big brush, and I'm just tweaking the mark making on the canvas, saving it here. Oh, actually, no, I'm not saving it. I'm actually comparing it. I copied it and pasted it. And this is the comparison with the girl. And I don't know about you, but I like the new version so much more. You can just sense it, how much more maximized it is for impact, emotional impact. So, I do that sometimes. I had saved a version 2 of this because I knew I was making a big change. So save a different version, not a big deal, and then compare them. Even though, I put an hour of work into that girl, but if it didn't work out, I would have no problems in going back to the old version. I have a overlay brush out, or maybe it's linear dodge. I actually don't know. Just increasing the glow, the bloom effect on the awning. I figured that sunlight would be so strong hitting that already warm colored awning that the sun would just bounce, especially in here. Like whenever you have a strong sunlight hitting an object that's kind of already warm, it just has this bloom, like saturated effect where it kind of bounces off and sparkles a little bit, glows really. And I'm exaggerating it here. You wouldn't see it glow this much in real life, but hey, this is an exaggerated painting. This is really a caricature of real life. Not just a caricature in the people's faces, but it's a caricature of light. You won't get light that looks quite like this in real life, but it's heightened.